Hello everyone, we are back with another video and today we're going to be playing Graal Online Era as well. So a lot of you guys had a few questions regarding how to calculate your value of sellables. So basically you guys are having issues regarding how ratios work in game and in real life as well, I guess. So I'm going to be going through a couple of examples with you guys, some real life examples and some in-game examples as well, which is supposed to help you guys sell your sellables and be carefree that you're not getting ripped off by someone. So I think it's a really important topic that you really need to understand before wanting to sell sellables or buy sellables and finding the right deals for you. So this video isn't obviously only for the people that know how Graal Online Era works and what it is, but I'm also going to be doing real life examples, so you are going to be getting to know how ratios work. So I am gonna start screen recording now. So the recording is on, and I think I'm gonna turn down the volume a little bit of this game because a lot of you guys are having issues with the volume of this iron katana being way too much. Anyways, so let's get started with the basic concept of ratios and sellables. As you can see on this screen, we have a first example of a ratio of 3 apples and 5 oranges. So a ratio is basically two sides of what you're basically giving and what you're getting. So this obviously meaning of a ratio is in the aspect of a trade. So if you're a farmer willing to sell your oranges for some apples, and this is the market ratio, so you can sell your 5 oranges for 3 apples. But if obviously you're gonna have more than just 5 oranges, so how do you like calculate how many apples the other person is supposed to give you? So if you have 50 apples, you divide the number of apples with the ratio, which is 3 apples. So for every 50 apples you can afford like 16.67 stacks of 5 oranges. So 16.67 stacks of 5 oranges does not mean 16.67 oranges. It means 16.67 approximately into 5 equals to 83 oranges. So the other person is supposed to give you 83.335 oranges, but since a person cannot give you 0.335 oranges, so you just need to round that off. You can obviously round it to 84 or 83 depending on what you guys agree. But in the context of Graal Online Era, you can do this exact 83.335 ratio because you're going to be paying or receiving Trochus, which is basically the currency in which trade happens. So you can be precise in the game, but I'm just giving a real life example in which you cannot be that much precise. So yeah. So the second example we have is of 1 apple equals to 2 oranges. So here we have a side of a ratio that has 1 in it. You would notice that these type of ratios are way easier to calculate because if you have 50 oranges, you could just divide it by the amount of oranges that you need to give for every apple. So 50 divided by 2 equals to 25 stacks of 1 apple each, so you have 25 apples. But obviously you need to check if that ratio works for you, if it's good for you, and if you profit with that ratio, and if it's competitive in the market. If you're just buying overpriced bad ratio, it just won't be good enough for you, and you can just opt for a ratio that is bad for you but is easy to calculate, but then again you aren't being optimal with your choices, so I wouldn't recommend that. Here we have a era context example where we have 1 is to $4. So this basically is a simplified version of an actual ratio, which people just write it down to save like their space on the text, and since there is limited space on the overhead and they need to get the maximum attention on a specific text, they keep it as short as possible. But what this ratio basically means is that the 1 on the left represents 1 row. So I'm gonna be simplifying each ratio for you guys. 1 row equals to $4. In game, the $4 means 4 Gralats, obviously. So 1 tro equals to 4 Gralats. This is the ratio that you're getting. What this ratio basically means that for every tro, you are getting 4 Gralats. Now this depends. If you're selling the sellables, this means that you're giving the other person 4 Gralats per tro. If you're selling, you're giving the other person 4 Gralats per his 1 tro. So basically, if he has 50,000 Trochus, you could just multiply it with 4 equals to 200,000. So you need to give him enough sellables to give him 200,000 Gralats, which he's going to be paying 50,000 Trochus. This is if the ratio is 1:4, by the way, which is obviously not the case in all of the scenarios. There could be a better ratio. By the way, you need to guys remember that if a seller is selling the sellables, so the lower the amount of sellables that he's giving, the better the trade he has. Basically, he's giving lower amount of Gralats per tro to the other guy, so he's gonna get the maximum amount of crotches that she can get. So if you got a buyer for 1:3.5 Gralats compared to a 3.8 Gralat buyer, the 3.5 Gralat buyer is a better opportunity for you to get more tro, and which is obviously the objective of every seller, to get the maximum amount of tro that you can get. So in the context of $1:2.38, so this means for every tro you're giving 3.8 Gralats. So if the person has 40,000 Trochus, you have to give him 3.8 Gralats, which is like 3.8 Gralats per tro, which is like 152,000 total Gralats that you need to give in order to get 40,000 Trochus. Okay, this is like was a general example for you to guys understand what ratios, how ratios work. And if someone pulls up to you and says, I need sellables of this amount, and you have a ton of sellables, so you could just put down the amount of sellables. By the way, the type of sellable that you have also matters a lot. If you have $5 sellables, the value obviously is gonna vary a lot. So let's get into Graal Online Era and do an actual example. Okay, so I grinded a ton of rocks, by the way, for this. So in the mining we have a ton of sellables. So I'm gonna be going to the trades and placing it on a table and showing it to guys how it actually works. By the way, a very weird thing happened to me today. I won like 60,000 torches in a giveaway, but I haven't received it yet. And the giveaway person is this person right here. She is pretty legit. I saw her give away like a total of 50,000 torches, but she did disconnect when I won. So let's see. I mean, it was 60,000 torches, which is a huge giveaway, by the way. So we are gonna see about that if it was legit. But hopefully it gets edited out. And anyway, let's continue. We are in trades right now currently. So you see the person right here selling 1:4. She's probably referring to sellables, but again she is being a way too short, like not even writing $4. So that's a bit shady. Maybe she means something else, or maybe some other ratio. Anyway, so how you want to calculate is basically you want to know the amount of Gralats that the sellables have. Let me just get a table real quick. Seems to be really hard right now. Okay, we have one over here. Okay, so suppose a person has this many minerals on a table and he says a specific ratio. So how do you calculate? I'm gonna be doing that with you guys right now. Okay, so we have 5 items. Okay, so first of all, the value of the sellable that is being traded matters a lot. Here we have $5 minerals, so all of these sellables are $5. So we can just add the sellables up and then multiply them by 5 to get the value of the sellables in Gralats. So we do 9024 plus, we're gonna be adding them up right here because if when I open the calculator app, it's just gonna close again. 9024 plus 9168 plus 4170 plus, let's just copy this, 68 plus 4190 plus 4140 plus 4148 equals to 20,720 minerals, which honestly makes sense because as you see, each mineral is 4,000 in volume, so multiply by 5 equals to 20,000, and the upper one is just rounded to 720. This is precise calculation, but I just verified it by doing it manually as well. So I think you guys should always do this because this just double checks the calculations as you do them. So we have 20,720 here. Honestly, you don't need to add it up like here. You could just go to Safari and you can start typing the amount of sellables for 73 plus 43 this plus this. So suppose this is the amount of minerals that I have of each type. So add them up. So where here we have 60,000 minerals. I accidentally wrote 47,000 in the last one. So we have 60,000 sellables here. But we here are assuming and we know that all of the sellables are of same amount of Gralats, which is $4 in our $5 in our case, by the way. So we're gonna be multiplying the amount of sellables with the amount of Gralats per mineral. So we have 3,03,465 Gralats worth of sellables. So this is the value of the sellables in Gralats. Now we are going to be dividing this by the amount of Gralats that we want if we are buying sellables, and or the amount of Gralats per row that we want to give to the person if we're selling. So suppose if the ratio agreed upon is 3.8. So this is basically the amount of trough that is going to be needed for you to buy the sellables, or the amount of trough that the person needs to put on the table if he wants to buy our sellables. Depending on the case, of course, I cannot repeat both scenarios continuously. It's just going to be repeating. So let's just go with the scenario that you want to sell your sellables. Okay, so in this case, I'm trying to sell my sellables. So this is the amount of trough that I need to receive from the other guy, 79,859. Normally, it is good etiquettes to just round it off, good manners or whatever to round it off. You could just put 79,860, or you could just 79,859 since the rounded amount goes to 59. So this is how you basically calculate. But there is a big important point to remember over here. If you do the above calculation instead of the Google bar on this calculator, it's gonna give you a ton of headache, especially if you are calculating the value of sellables for different type of sellables. Like if you have a $5 sellable, a $4 sellable, a $3 sellable on the same table. So you definitely need to multiply different volumes with different amount of Gralats. So in that case, you cannot use this normal calculator because then you'll have to use these brackets and all because of the board mass issues and stuff. It's just gonna do some division first, multiplication later, and all that bullshit. I mean, it's not bullshit, it's really important, but in our scenario, it just adds to the more, it makes it more complex, honestly. We just want it to be easy. Like, kids play this game, bro. So we want it to be as easy as possible. But if it's all mushrooms, you can definitely use this calculator on the Google or your external calculator. So yeah, this is the amount of mushrooms. We multiply by 5 to get the amount of Gralats, and then divide by 3.8, which the amount of Gralats that we want, or the amount of Gralats that I want to give since I'm selling these sellables. So I'm expected to receive 79,860 Trochus. So this is final. Okay, let me just find a secluded table so that people don't think I'm trying to sell syllables. And so basically 77 blue crab shells, and then we have 12 mushrooms, all the copper, all the ruby, and then all the gold. So what you do here right now is multiply the amount of gralats each of these syllables are worth multiplied by the quantity of these syllables, which is basically very basic. 77 crab shells into 6, because each crab shell is worth 6 gralats, plus 12 mushrooms into 5 gralats per mushroom, plus 4094 copper into 5, because each copper is 5 gralats, plus 248 ruby, and each rupee is 7 gralats, plus 227 into 10, because each gold is 10 gralats. So basically each of these syllables could be worth differently. I'm pretty sure on the others, but you could just verify about the ruby. But let's just go with the assumption that that is the worth of these syllables, and you just need to understand the ratio so that you can apply it yourself for later on. So yeah, now we have 25,098 gralats worth of syllables. So copy paste, we have it copied. Now I am going to go on Safari. By the way, I noticed that when I head to a Safari and use the phone in vertical, it causes a bit of an issue because you cannot, it doesn't basically automatically swap to it being vertical, which didn't cross my mind earlier. So yeah, we have 25098. So we could just, sorry about that, 25098 gralats divided by amount of gralats that we want to give, since I'm selling the syllables. So 3.8, and we have 6,604 tro. So this is the amount of tro that I want the seller to give me if he has agreed on 3.8 ratio. So this was basically an example of selling the syllables. So for example, if you're buying someone's sellable, you just do the same exact calculation for someone's sellable on their table, calculate the amount of gralats that sellables are worth, and then divide by the number of gralats that you want to give to the other person. This is the formula, by the way, over here. I've written it down for you guys' ease, so you can just use this one over here. Value of sellables in gralats divided by amount of gralats per row. So if you're selling, put the ratio in the denominator, whatever ratio you want to sell for, and then advertise it and stuff. So yeah, these were the previous examples that we probably did, and I probably have the recording for those as well. So yeah, this was the final example, and this was the obviously the hardest example, because when you're buying, especially when you're buying trash, we have paper, we have tire, and then we have bottles. So bottles are worth $5, tire is worth $6, paper is worth $4. So each of the syllables, or most of the syllables, are of different values. So that is when using the basic calculator is not recommended, because then you'll have to put the parentheses as well and tell it that even though you're using BODMAS, solve the brackets first and stuff, which is honestly complicated. So just write it down on the Google search area. It's gonna add the brackets for you, or just write it on the area of the website where you write the website's name or use it for search or whatever. But don't just directly use calculator, especially when you're buying sellables of different quantities and different values. So yeah, that's about it. And the second objective of this video was to assess the efficiency of grinding rocks. So I already recorded this, but my phone got full on storage, so it basically didn't record it. And previously I was recording in 4K, so the storage was getting occupied seriously fast, and it's basically not sustainable. So I'm just gonna record on normal HD 1080p, I guess. So yeah. So basically, I bought rocks worth some trope. It was 35,000 rocks for 1.5 rock per trope. So let's calculate that. It was 30,000 rocks, 35,000 rocks, sorry, and I paid 1.3 rock per trope. So the total amount of trope that I paid was 26,925, and I calculated earlier that the amount of minerals that I have equate to 1,34,774 Gralats. You guys can calculate these as well and let me know if this is correct calculation. So that was the exact quantities for your guys' calculation. But basically, all of these are supposed to be worth 134,774 Gralats. Okay, and I paid 26,925 Trochus. Oh my god. Divided by 26,925 equals to 5. This is basically the amount of Gralats per trough that I got by buying rocks and then grinding them. But you need to understand that grinding rocks is really complicated. Even if you're a high level, grinding rocks, like 35,000 rocks, took me like 3 to 5 hours, and I was like working as fast as I could. So even though I was able to get a ton of profit, it took me a ton of time. It was difficult, and I was able even though I was able to put 10 rocks per trough in the machine, it was honestly really difficult. So it is only recommended if you have a ton of time on your watch and you don't care how long it takes you, or if you're a miner. If you're a miner, it is probably worth it for you because you can mine while grinding the rocks as well. So some of the time is gonna be saved or invested into mining as well. So yeah, you need to do your own calculations. Obviously, this is good for some people, this is bad for some people. So yeah, it honestly works differently for different cases. So yeah, that was the calculations, and hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in another video. The purpose of this video for you guys was to understand the ratios, which I am hoping you guys understood. And if you guys have any questions, please write it down in the comments. I will be happy to help you guys. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye bye.